Welcome to the KO Boxing Show. Haven't we got a massive show tonight? None other than the IBO World President, Ed Levine, all the way from Florida. Ed, welcome to the KO Boxing Show.
Great to be there, Peter. Even if I'm not there personally, it's I feel like a little bit of me is in Australia today, so that's good.
No, fantastic. Great to have you on the show. Ed, how did you get involved with boxing? You're a New York real estate attorney, and you kind of got involved with the WBO as a judge in the late 80s in the WBU. How did that lead to you going to the IBO in 1999, was it? Around there?
1999 is correct. The transition was sort of not intended. It was all accidental. I started, just a quick rundown, I started as a local boxing judge in the early 80s, transitioned to be an international boxing judge, which I really loved. It gave me a lot of experience. I saw big fights, and transitioned from that into meeting some people in sanctioning bodies, and eventually the WBO, when it was formed, I was one of the original members, and I became the chairman of the championships committee, which was a wonderful 4 or 5 years. Then I decided to take a break. There was a transition going on in the WBO. I wasn't involved in that, but it was nothing negative. And from there, I was out of boxing and then a year or so with the WBU. That was not a good experience for me. And then I wanted to be back into boxing. So I explored starting another sanctioning body, felt that that would not be a good idea. I'd rather take something that had been started, at least it had the structure to use as a vehicle to go forward with another sanctioning body. And that's the way it started in 1999. I myself and a few other shareholders bought into the IBO, and it's been a wonderful journey.
No, it has it. And you guys have the computer ranking system and use BoxRec as well. And you've got the top 100 ranked fighters, which is quite interesting. And that points ranking system, is that just to take away opinion and things like that? Because, you know, the WBC, the WBA, the WBO, the IBF, they're all got ratings committee and they all get together and rate fighters, obviously. But you guys go with the computer rating system. Now, explain a little bit about that, please.
Yes, Peter, I thought when we started that it was very important to do something different. And the main difference that I had experienced in boxing along the way was the other sanctioning bodies had, as you said, ratings committees and all kinds of different methods of rating, but essentially they were made subjectively. I felt that a sanctioning body would thrive if it had ratings like every other sport does, just based upon statistics, who you beat, the quality of your opposition. Other sports like tennis or golf or most other sports are purely based upon your competition, who you beat, and your rankings are based upon that. And it's easy. And I thought if we started a sanctioning body that had boxing ratings that were not necessarily 100% correct, because a computer can't see a good loss or a bad win, but at least it would be totally out of the hands of emotion or relationships or anything like that. And I thought that would be an answer to success. It wasn't. The reason it wasn't, in my opinion, is boxing already felt like it had too many sanctioning bodies.
Yeah.
And not only did boxing have too many sanctioning bodies, it also had relationships over all those years that were established with the promoters and sanctioning bodies, with TV platforms and sanctioning bodies and promoters. And the fan base itself was fed up, because not only were there 4 world champions per division, it became 5 world champions, 6, 7, 8, all the other world championships. And the timing was not good to start another sanctioning body, which was the 5th sanctioning body. So it's been a difficult road to overcome. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, the IBO does everything well, but we don't want another sanctioning body." That's a common opinion.
Yeah.
So we get sort of punished by being the fifth sanctioning body.
Or the fifth beetle.
Yes, yes.
If you're in the back.
So yeah, so I try to respond to that by saying, look, we do some. Why don't you measure us differently than the other sanctioning bodies? Yes, they have more recognition, no doubt about it. There's no question that recognition brings more dollars.
Yeah.
So recognition brings networks to work with you. But I try to tell people, don't just judge us on recognition, judge us on respect. The two words are not interchangeable. Some industry, whatever you're talking about, any business, any sporting event, anything, or any entity, some are recognized but not necessarily respected. And some entities are respected but not recognized. Having both is the goal, but not an easy road. Nevertheless,
no, you guys have done a great job. Let's go over some of the world champions: Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Tyson Fury, Lennox Lewis, Thomas Hearns, Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Nassim Hamed, Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, in Australia, we've had Daniel Gill, Anthony Mundine, Danny Green, Blake Caporello. Some great Australian fighters are currently, just about to fight for a world title. We've got Dennis Hogan fighting Sam Egerton on October 8 on a no-limit card. And also Darragh Foley's going to be fighting Minto, and you've got Paulie Acuso fighting Faris Chevalier. And that's due to, you guys have appointed a really good area provision guy here by the name of Justin Kennedy, obviously, that and he is so thorough and, dots all the I's and crosses all the T's, and he knows all the rules, and, he's on top of all the promoters too, and a box rec editor, a man of really good integrity.
He fits our criteria. When people come to us to want to work with us, we're looking for someone that we know is honest, integrity, that we can rely on when they say something. That's what's happening. And we're so lucky to have Justin on board. All our boxing supervisors, vice presidents, and commissioners meet that criteria. When they go to a fight, I know that they're going to do the right thing for the event, for the fighters, and it's a feeling of comfort for the IBO, very much so.
Have you been to Australia, Ed? Have you got any experiences here with any Australian fighters?
Well, yes, I have been. I was there a few times, I believe, during the Danny Green era. You'll remember that Danny held our title.
Yes.
He also fought. I definitely went to Perth on one fight. That's quite a travel, by the way, from Miami.
Yeah, yeah, it would be, yeah.
But I did go to Perth, and that was a great experience because he was fighting Antonio Tarver.
Yeah.
And I think I may have been to one other fight in Australia, but I have been there, and I've also been there not for boxing, but for pleasure. I've been to Australia a couple of times just to be in Australia, and not related to boxing.
How do you find the Australian boxers? Like Dennis Hogan's fighting Sam Egerton. Do you know much about Dennis Hogan?
I do, because I had followed him somewhat, because he had 3 major world title attempts. So I can't watch everything, but I try to watch fights that are for world titles to see for myself what the fighters look like, how they perform. I felt that he was just on the periphery. In fact, I felt that one of the fights he won, there was some controversy over that. Yeah. And I do feel that he deserved another chance, and he met our criteria, which was when they first came to us, when No Limit came to us, we were looking for him to fight a fight that proved to us that you're back to world class, and he did that with the Ryan fight.
Yeah.
So that proved that, okay, you're ready to go back on the big stage, and this fight will tell us a lot about his status in world boxing, as it will for Eggington, because he's in the same kind of situation. They're both clearly top-rated fighters, and this is their shot. And if the winner of that fight will go on to even bigger fights, that's very important for us.
Yeah, it is. And also Paulo Acuso, who's an Olympian fighting Faris Chevalier, who's a former world-rated fighter. I mean, that's going to be a good light heavyweight contest.
We have a road planned for him. When you see who he fights, and you know right away, this is not a fighter that they're putting in with losers or gatekeepers. They're putting him immediately in with top-notch fighters. And some fighters like that come along rarely. They're such good amateurs that people know how good they are when they step through the professional door. Acuso is one of those fighters. We have one other. I don't want to go through names, but there's two of them that we're watching now that, in our opinion, are going to be future world champions.
Okay.
No question on my mind.
Obviously, you've been in the caper for so long. Who are your favorite all-time fighters growing up as a kid? Who are the guys that got you involved with boxing?
Well, when I was a young kid, my first fight that I saw was, it's hard to believe, but it was Sugar Ray Robinson.
Wow.
And I was 10 years old or something like that when I saw that fight. It was the first fight I ever saw, and it sort of hooked me on boxing without me knowing it as a 10-year-old. But then I followed his entire career, when television, when he was on television, even the latter part of his career, because he fought into his 40s when he was no longer the same fighter. But he was my fighter of that era. Then the next one that really was amazing to me, that I was close to, was Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
In his prime, I used to, particularly when he was fighting for our title, or he was fighting for the IBO title many times, I used to go to the fights on behalf of the IBO, and I said, we don't need judges. The scorecards would be the same every time. He would win every round.
Yeah.
You didn't see scorecards like that. He had such physical and natural ability that he was, I would say he was number 2 all time in my mind. Unfortunately, a lot of these fighters keep fighting, Roy Jones included, after they're past their prime, and people may not remember how great they were in their prime.
Yeah, very true, very true. What about Aussie fighters? Who's the best Aussie fighters you've seen?
Well, I would say amongst the top, Jeff Fennick comes to mind.
Kostya.
Oh, no question about it. I remember when he first came into view by the rest of the world, everybody was shocked how good he was. And to this day, this is not just, to make a great fighter, you not only have to have the ability and natural talent, but you have to groom it constantly and get better. And Kostya was one of those fighters. He just always got better, fight to fight. Now his son is going. That's another interesting thing. We have his son
and
fighting.
Nikita. He's got 2 now, and Nikita's coming along nicely too.
Yes, and his other son. So those are the 2 that stand out in my mind, actually. Of course, I love Danny Green. He'd fight anybody.
Daniel Gill and Anthony Mundine. Also,
yes, absolutely. They would, they were there to fight and fight the best. And it's difficult in Australia because it's a geographic problem. You can't. It's not easy to get the attention because you're so far away from other areas that are hotbeds of boxing.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily. First of all, the fighters that come out of Australia are very good, and why bring these super boxers to Australia? So it's a difficult road for Australian boxers to reach the epitome of boxing, but they do it anyway. Now you have Cambrosos and Haney out of the blue, here you have another star boxer that everybody in the world was watching that fight
Yeah, yeah,
in Australia.
yeah. But it started like midday here, if you know what I mean.
Yes,
You have to
yes,
adjust on a Sunday to Saturday night back into America. So,
yes. It's difficult. It's difficult.
but we still got 42,000 or 41,000 people
Incredible.
to fight.
It's great.
So that's how the
It's,
Aussies are here. They turn up. They love their sport.
oh, they love the sport.
Yeah.
They love the sport.
No, I was going to say, Ed, what are some of the characters you've met in boxing and the funny stories before we wrap up the interview? They've got to have met some interesting. I mean, the sport's full of colourful characters. Who are some that just bounce off the page for you that are just lovable?
Well, I'm thinking of something that I've always said to people, that boxing is a small business, so you get to know everybody. You get to meet everybody in the sport if you're in it long enough, because it's not a business that has, 100,000 people in it. You get to know everybody. And I've always said, just when you think you've seen everything in boxing, hang around, and tomorrow or the day after, you'll see something that you never expected. Trying to think of a funny, the funniest. Gee, that's a tough one.
Any interesting stories that you'd like to share with us?
I'm thinking.
Nothing with promoters or fighters or anything happening?
Well, if you had a 6-hour show, we could start at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I'd say, without mentioning particular names, during my short excursion with the WBU, which is no longer, I guess it had some kind of existence somewhere, but during that very short existence, I knew everybody in boxing at the time, and I had, during a short time frame, I was able to arrange a great fight for the WBU, and the promoter was Top Rank.
Okay.
And the fight was going to be in Las Vegas, and it was going to be between, I forget the fighters actually, but between James Toney and I forget who the opponent was, and the purse amounts were huge, and the sanctioning fees were huge. And at that time, the owner of the WBU, I was not the owner, but the owner of the WBU, the fight was all sanctioned, agreed upon. Everybody was happy. It was a huge fight. It would have put the WBU in the spotlight forever. It would have made them, that was early, it was mid-90s.
Wow.
And I was driving with my wife from Miami to Key West on a little holiday. And I get a phone call from Top Rank. And they said, the president has refused to, he wants to appoint all the officials in Las Vegas for the fight. I said, well, I know that doesn't happen that way. Nevada Commission is very strong, and they are going to appoint top-notch officials. This is our first huge fight in Las Vegas. And again, without mentioning names, the referee, who was no longer a referee because of an illness, was absolutely the best referee in the world. And the officials were both top-notch officials, and I believe that Nevada had allowed us to nominate 2 other officials. So I could not persuade. I told my wife, I was driving the car, and I said, I have in my hand, it was the sanctioning letter because I brought the file with me, the winning lottery ticket. I've just won the lottery. We have this major fight in Las Vegas, named fighters, and the owner of the WBU just ripped up our lottery ticket.
Wow.
And that was the end of my experience. It's not funny, but it's a true story.
Not smart, is it?
So I said, how can you come back from that? And then of course, that got me out of boxing for a while. But things happen for good sometimes. Sometimes one door slams and another door opens, and you run through it. And I've had a great time with the IBO, and we'll continue to, because it's enjoyable. It's fun to go to work when you enjoy what you do.
No, for sure. And
Not a job.
we're really looking forward to more IBO title fights here in Australia, more IBO world champions. I mean, we've had world champions like Blake Caparello, Will Tomlinson as well, and Zach Dunn. So we're really,
Yeah, I appreciate that, Peter. We can open the door for them.
Yeah.
And anybody who asks a question of the best way to answer someone why the IBO is, why do you think all these great champions held their IBO title for 10 years? They weren't stupid. They had great management, great promoters, great fighters. There was a reason. And the reason is they knew that they were dealing with a sanctioning body that had integrity,
Yeah.
and would protect their interests as champions.
Thank you for your time, Matt. It sounds
Thank
like
you, Peter.
Is that a be there? It sounds like a be there, or there's a bit of...
It does. Actually, I'm in 3 places: Las Vegas, Australia, and actually, you're talking to me in North Carolina.
Oh, great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
And
thank you so much.
Keep up the fantastic work you do for boxing.
Appreciate
and obviously, all these big fights, we'll get you back on the show soon, and we'll get you back talking about these fights. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you, Peter. Good to see you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.